Cope Compass Gambling Recovery in the Digital Age, featuring Austin Taylor. Austin Taylor never expected a gambling sponsorship to change the course of his life. A software engineer, military veteran, and Twitch streamer, Austin accepted a crypto casino sponsorship in 2021 that quickly evolved from a side opportunity into a devastating gambling addiction. Within 2 years, he had lost millions of dollars, damaged important relationships, and entered inpatient treatment in search of recovery. In this powerful episode of Talking Addiction and Recovery, Austin shares his personal journey through gambling addiction, the challenges he encountered while trying to find specialized treatment, and the lessons he learned throughout recovery. He discusses the unique nature of gambling disorder, the growing accessibility of sports betting and online gambling, and why recovery can be especially difficult when money itself becomes a trigger. Austin also introduces Cope Compass, a free platform designed to help individuals affected by gambling addiction find specialized providers, access recovery tools, connect with peer support, and manage gambling urges between counseling sessions. The conversation explores how technology can be leveraged to improve access to care and support individuals during the critical moments when they need help the most. Whether you are a clinician, person in recovery, family member, or someone interested in understanding the evolving gambling landscape, this episode offers valuable insights into one of the fastest growing behavioral health challenges today. Recovery doesn't happen only during the hour spent in counseling. It also happens between sessions that don't always match office hours. This conversation explores what meaningful support can look like during those moments.
This is Talking Addiction and Recovery, the podcast talking, you guessed it, all about addiction and recovery. Join your host, licensed professional counselor Andrew J. Schreier, as he and his guests break down recovery topics with raw honesty, delving into niche conversations around the topics of substance abuse, mental health, and gambling. We intend to meet individuals where they are on their own personal journey of recovery, with dignity, respect, and compassion. We'll do more than talk addiction and recovery. We'll explore it. We're glad you've joined us. Here with today's episode, your host, Andrew Schreier.
Our guest on this episode is Austin Taylor, who is the founder of Cope Compass, a real-time recovery support app for people struggling with gambling and other behavioral addictions. A U.S. Air Force veteran, he built Cope Compass to reach people in the moment that matters most. 2 a.m., mid-urge, in the gap between a trigger and a bet. It pairs a real-time intervention engine with peer support, meetings, and progress tracking. You can learn more about Austin in the podcast notes. Before we get into this episode, if you're a licensed or certified behavioral health professional, I want to make sure you know something about the podcast. Talking Addiction Recovery is now an approved continuing education provider through IPGGC, NASW, and NADAC, meaning you can earn CEUs just by listening to select podcast episodes and completing a short post-test. No conference, no webinar registration, no membership. Just the content you're already consuming working for your professional development. Head over to www.andrewjschreier.com for everything you need. All right, let's get into today's episode. On this episode of Talking Addiction and Recovery podcast, we want to welcome Austin Taylor. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Cope Compass and some of the work that you do and the story behind it. Before we get to that, can you just give listeners a little bit of a background about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me, Andrew. My name is Austin Taylor. I, by trade, am a software engineer in cybersecurity. Did while in the military. I was in the military for 17 years, and I guess where it relates to recovery, I had a great career on paper. Like I had everything people I think aspire, a nice house, beautiful wife, little daughter, and I had I started streaming online and got a free casino sponsorship where they would pay me just to gamble on their platform. And it was great in the beginning until it wasn't. And that's what I want to talk a little bit more, just more about my journey through recovery, how I think this is an epidemic happening across the world that's silently swelling. And I'm really excited to chat with you and just dive into everything I'm seeing, what my recovery journey's been like, and what I'm doing to try to help others to prevent going down that same path.
So part of your story started out by online casino reaching out to you. Like that's part of how that became
Y-
can you share about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I used to stream on Twitch, and it was great in the beginning. I was just streaming Fortnite with my nephews, and that turned into I started doing giveaways because it was fun. I felt blessed, like I was doing great in life. And then I got agents because I started growing my audience. I started, averaging around like a couple hundred concurrent viewers all the way up to thousands. And then the crypto boom happened in like 2021. I launched a crypto token, and that was doing great. And then these crypto casinos, they wanted to partner with me to just go on their platform, and all they said all I had to do was play on their casino. And I said, "Oh, that sounds great." They were giving me it's 13,500 a month base salary, $200 for every person I recruited, and then $7,500 in credits on a Monday and a Friday. They would reload it. And so I was like, okay, great. So I could play Friday and Monday just for an hour or two and make money and like recruit people. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so started doing that, and it was fine in the beginning. Uh, I started playing. I was keeping myself to the schedule, Monday and Friday. And then I remember I won a jackpot, like I think it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever it was on their site. And I was like, wow, like I found the infinite money glitch. Here I am getting credits and I could play and all. So started playing a little bit more. Started playing on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Wednesdays. And then all of a sudden I was playing every day, even off stream. I was playing off stream, and that progressed over the next 2 to 3 months to where I could not stop thinking about gambling. Like I would wake up in the morning and it was all I was thinking about, and I'd go to sleep and like I couldn't wait to start gambling the next day. And so, yeah, that I don't know how much of the story you want me to tell, but that's the part that led into my recovery journey. It got pretty bad. I mean, you want me to dive into how bad it got, or?
No, I'm fascinated by the this convergence of like we're talking you were streaming, which is like gaming, and then there was digital currency, there was gambling, casino. But there's just all this convergence of these different things that all of a sudden it's like how does that relationship all of a sudden show up at your door as an opportunity to get involved? Then it turns into the problems that you were having with it. I don't know how many people realize that that is part of what happens. Like you were doing Twitch, you were streaming. You had no intent of doing anything gambling related, but somehow it showed up right to you. Like I don't think people realize like how that technology, gaming, gambling, digital currency is very much like interwoven versus we tend to see them all as like separate siloed things.
That's right. That's right. And they had they approached me because they wanted my target audience. Who is my audience? Everybody in crypto. People in crypto tend to be used. They're more risk. They're risk acceptable. Prone to it. And when you are purchasing crypto, the market's volatile. You're used to things going up and down, and the onboarding path into the casino with crypto is a straight shot. And I didn't realize all this at the time. If they would have told me when they were signing up, "Hey, do you want to take this casino deal? Like, all you got to do is play on our, all you got to do is play on our platform, and we're going to give you money each month. You're going to get referral fees. We're going to give you credits to play with. By the way, you're going to also get super addicted and betray the trust of your friends and family and get incarcerated for a little bit." And I mean, I went through it all. and I lost so much more than money. You know, I've learned that money comes and goes, but you start losing when you lose your integrity and start doing things you just thought you would never do just to get more money because you think you're due or whatever the addiction's telling you. Uh, it's vicious.
And how quick of a progression would you say this this happened from when you first started getting involved in it to where it was starting to cause problems? Was this like a slow progression, took a lot of years before it finally started, or did it escalate actually quite quickly with things? Like, how would you look at whether this was a slow buildup or a pretty fast uh, decline of, not problems, issues, and stuff like that?
I think it rapidly increased because I got this sponsorship in November of 2021 or around that time frame. And by 2023, I was putting out a tweet saying I'm completely broke. Like I had lost millions of dollars, not just of my money, but investor money, friends' money, that I'm still like working to repay today. And it put me in such a bad spot. The spiral happened so fast, and I kept thinking, man, I have to win soon. Like I kept telling myself that I have to win soon. Like there's no way it could just keep taking money like this. And even when I would win, I remember thinking, okay, now I could pay back this loan, but that's not enough. Like I still owe this much money too. So I was definitely robbing Peter to pay Paul and borrowing money and just not, um, well, I can't even say borrowing anymore. I never paid it back. Like you borrow
Mm.
money when you're going to pay it back. What I did was steal, like flat out. And I justified it in my mind because I thought I was going to be able to pay him back. And these were people, you know, sadly, I considered like really close friends. Uh, those relationships have soured a little bit now, or I just haven't talked to them. And but I'm working hard, you know, to make sure everything. Fortunately, I do have a well-paying career now, and I'm able to make amends and like get that restitution paid back. But a lot of people don't get that second chance, and I think the entire journey, I went from someone that was super stable, great career, 17 years in the military, to I'm in rehab in 2023 for gambling.
Yeah, that was something that came up years ago. Years ago, before even the sports betting and where we see everything to now, there was talks when gambling was just growing more online and there was just more of like online casinos, and we also know like the overseas black market ones, and there was this story of a college student, son of a preacher, started gambling online in college and went from like no gambling to all of a sudden robbing a bank to pay off a debt in like 13, 14, 15 months. Like very short amount of time. And I think that's something that I don't know where we are yet with understanding that, but with some of the changes with access to gambling, the casino in your pocket is what people refer to, being able to do it on your phone. Are we going to start to see like some of the escalations of the gambling harm really speed up in its like trajectory versus, you know, all the different times where there was more friction, more gaps. You had to go somewhere, right, to gamble. You had to travel somewhere. If you had to get money, you had to go and get it. And now everything is really become such a technology and digital way of doing things. So when you mentioned when you started with it and then how quickly things became that way, it really drew my attention towards like some of this is not like a slow build ride. This can be pretty fast downward spiral quickly. It doesn't have to take long for it to be a problem. It can happen a lot sooner than we think. We don't have to have someone saying, I've been struggling for 20 years. It might be someone saying, I've been struggling for just a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah. And what surprised me was I remember thinking I saw people that had lost it all before I started gambling. And I thought, wow, how could they let that happen to them? This guy tweeted, I lost millions of dollars, and I was like, from gambling. And I thought, wow, like how could he let that happen? And I, I had no idea how strong the pull is and just how it changes your brain chemistry and your reward system. And then it happened to me. And to your point about this new age, I think Gamblers Anonymous, it's been around a long time. And I think the way it was designed was for those traditional gamblers that had to go into the casino because that's what existed at the time. But now we are at an age where there's a casino in your pocket. There's ads. I think sports betting is legalized in 38 states and DC now. That was upheld by the Supreme Court. There is casinos, and there's not just casinos now. There's different types of gambling, forex, loot boxes. There's anything where the outcome is unpredictable, right? Especially in crypto. And I've seen where there's a new generation being raised on gambling, but they're being wired for it with very popular video games. I guess I won't name them. I don't want to get you in trouble, but um, popular video games where you can buy these loot boxes, and kids are asking, they're getting hooked. It's the same mechanics as gambling, and then once they get into their teens, now they're doing sports betting, and we're seeing. I've dug into the research to really understand what's driving a lot of this and how is this happening, and it's across the board, an increase. I think I just saw yesterday a tweet where gambling made more money last year than Amazon, or more money was wagered in gambling than Amazon made all of last year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, twice as much as Amazon.
And even things now with, you mentioned like the sports betting, the video gaming, we got the prediction markets now, which is another thing where I think when you kind of mentioned like the Bitcoin and the risk taking, now we're looking at this idea of trading and investing that's now becoming even more blur of a term with prediction markets. So, and you mentioned a part where people are going to grow up where this seems very normal because now, I remember growing up, there used to be once in a while, like we got a casino in the main city area, and there's sometimes be like a billboard here and there up like that, but there wasn't all this stuff on like TV, advertisements, sports, and I think even people who don't do this work and people that aren't necessarily saying, hey, I know someone that I'm worried about, but a lot of people in general seem to notice how visible and available all of this stuff is nowadays versus where it was a few years ago. Like, I don't think anyone thought they would see sports betting logos at stadiums and
Yeah.
arenas, or they would see prediction market sponsors on jerseys. Like, I don't imagine people who weren't even deeply involved in the work of gambling see this, and that's what I hear from a lot of people is it just seems to be so much. There just seems to be a lot of it going on. And part of me is like, hey, when other people are telling me they're concerned, that's a whole nother sign. Because most of the time it was us having to tell people about concerned about gambling and the impact. And now when you have people who normally didn't say much who are now saying it seems like a lot. Why is it mentioned every time I watch a sports game? They're talking about odds. Why are there so many billboards and stuff? And to me, that tells you when other people start talking about it that it's not just us raising an alarm. It's just people in general seem to notice this. So you, so you did talk about you went into treatment and recovery, and that also led you to even get more involved, which is with Cope Compass. So you
Right.
then took another step into your life and journey to actually get more involved. Can you talk a little bit about Cope Compass?
Sure. Before I jump into that, I do want to talk about something you just brought up, Andrew, which is a really good point. Because a lot of people don't know the addiction is very insidious, and a lot of people, including myself, don't realize when they're addicted. They don't realize when they're having urges or when it's got a hold of you. And anybody that's listening that thinks that they might have an issue, I would encourage you to just take a test. You know, there's the 20 assessment test. We do have the test available on copecompass.com, but there's also a lot of resources where people can take the free assessment. And you know how I found out that I needed help? I had an idea that I needed help, but I was about to take out a second on our house. And I had heard this story where people would take out a mortgage on their house and then lose every, and I was just thinking like, yeah, but those are other people, right? And I told my wife, hey, I got all this stuff together. I just need you to sign here. She was like, what? She, you're taking out a second. I was like, yeah, I listen, okay, I got it all planned out. I'm due. And I like just trying to explain the casino to her and stuff. And she's like, I'm not signing that. And I got upset with her. I was like, how could you do this to me? Like, she's
Mm,
like, and like, thank God she did not sign off on that. And she was always like a strong force against what I was doing, which was what I needed at the time, but I didn't realize it. And I would get emotionally and upset. I didn't have good emotional regulation at the time because I just knew I wanted to gamble. Um, so finally, she said, okay. I said, I need help. Like, I cooled down, you know, the urge passed. I told her, like, I think I need help. Like, I can't stop thinking about gambling all day. And she said, okay. So she talked to a few people at her work. And this was the start of my recovery journey. And this is where I found out this whole recovery ecosystem is severely underserved right now, especially for gambling, and the infrastructure isn't growing fast enough to meet the demands of all the people that need help. And the people that need help don't even know they need help. So it's kind of this two-faceted system. So I started reaching out to counselors, and I would talk to a few of them. I would tell them my story, and they would say, "You lost how much money?" And I would tell them, and they'd say, "Well, I remember I'll never forget this one counselor. He said, "Well, we should start a business together." Like he started recruiting me, and I was like, "I need help for like my head is not in a good spot right now, man. Okay, I need help." And so they kept referring me to. They're like, "I don't think I can help you. I don't think I can help you." And they kept referring me to more and more counselors. And then I learned as I started doing more research, there's like what, like a few hundred ICGC counselors, and like there's really a few hundred counselors, I think, that specialize in gambling today. And there's millions of people addicted to gambling, and many don't even realize it, right? I think one of the stats I saw was like 1 in 8 actually seek treatment, which is pretty wild. So I found a recovery center. Eventually, I remember I made a call with my wife, and this guy started walking. He was a peer counselor. He started walking me through everything that I was feeling. And I was like, wow, this guy really gets it. Like he explained why I was lying to people. Why, like in my brain, he was breaking down how our brain justifies these types of lies. And I was like, wow, okay, I need to go there. Like, so I went there. It was 28-day inpatient rehab. And I'll never forget the treatment there was great. It was 3 individual sessions per day, one-on-one counseling, and then 4 group sessions. And I went through that whole process, and then I they were teaching me so many things there, like breathing techniques, different types of ways to process urges, um, my a family history, like you do your family genome, And I left there thinking, okay, great. Like I got the tools I need to succeed. However, when I was sitting in rehab, they had me, I was living in Maryland at the time. They had me, I said, okay, how do I find a counselor? Like I had to find a counselor, IOP, a medication manager, and all of these things that I had never even heard of. And then I had to figure out what insurance do they take, right? It's like, do they even take my insurance? So they printed out an Excel spreadsheet that had 50 pages and just said, all right, here you go. This is for your state. Like, just keep calling down the list till you find people that do this. I was like, this is 2023. Like, I'm a software developer. Like, I could fix this. What do we? So I didn't start fixing it yet. I got out and then I went to IOP, and the IOP I found, they said, I said, hey, I'm calling and do you guys take this insurance? I'm calling for gambling IOP. They said, oh, we don't really treat gambling, but did do you have an alcohol addiction too?
Yeah, do you
And
have mental health issue? Like
yeah,
looking for
yeah,
something that was either substance use or mental health.
yeah. It's like, yeah, we can get you in. Just say, it's for alcohol. I said, okay, but what about gambling? And they said, well, we'll treat that too. So, anyways, I went to the IOP meetings for months, and I kind of got treated like the black sheep of the rehab group because
Mm.
they're like, okay, everybody's in here. You're for alcohol, opioids, whatever. And oh, look, everybody, we have a gambler in here. Like, and they're like, gambling? How could you get addicted to that? I'm like, how are you guys judging me for gambling? And so,
But so not uncommon. That is what a lot of individuals seeking, whether it's treatment or even like a meeting for gambling, like that's a pretty unfortunately common reaction of like the black sheep or the fish out of a water
yeah,
feel, even though it's impacting you just as much as whatever they're dealing with is impacting them.
yeah, absolutely. So I went through this whole process, and I kept thinking there has to be a better way to take all of my experience of what I went through. When you're in active addiction and you're trying to get help, your brain is not functioning at full capacity. It's foggy. You're in a dark spot. Like you need help. You're lying to your family. You're lying to your friends, and you feel like you're alone and nobody else knows. And you feel like you're smarter than everybody else because, well, this is they call it the invisible addiction, right? I'm sure you've heard that
Yep.
many times, where we don't have symptoms of being drunk or high, or we just have,
Or you're on
you
your
know,
phone and who knows what, I mean, nowadays that your phone is your computer and everything. So there could be four people sitting around at a table on a phone and someone could be gambling right there
uh,
and
yeah,
you wouldn't know. Like you wouldn't know. It can be right there. That's why I call it hidden in plain sight.
absolutely,
It's right there, even though even when you can see it though, people don't always think otherwise. Like if someone did see you were playing a sports betting thing or an online casino, I don't think people would say the same thing as if someone saw you like stepping away trying to hide substance use or trying to hide alcohol use. And, it's not even when it's hidden in plain sight, we can't see it. But even when people do see it, there's still not the same reaction as we see with other things.
that's exactly right. And it makes it, I think that's the part that makes us feel like we're smarter, like we're getting away with it. It's sneaky, but also, I mean, yeah, I would go to the bathroom and gamble, like if I needed to, or I would wait for the next bonus and all right, you guys have a nice night going to sleep. I'll be I'll be up working. And
Well, it used to also be for some sports bettors, like staying up until the last possible game, even when they had no interest in the team or any idea of the team. And then it became even like the sport because then it didn't become about the last game of the sport I watched. It also then became about the last sport that I could bet on. But now that's just becoming like a 24/7 availability thing. But I remember some people used to be like, I stopped when it was at this time because that was the last game I could bet on for the day. And now
Hmm.
that's like not a friction point anymore. Now it's because then you hear about people betting on things that they would never have gotten involved with before. People talk about like I was betting on ping pong or
Yeah.
tennis or this sport that like I've never watched, and then what were you doing paying attention to? And it was because of gambling, not because I suddenly became very interested in this sport.
Yeah, yeah. And they made micro betting in every sport. So now you watch one football game, I think I saw an average amount of bets available is around 150 bets. They have bets for, is this player going to drink his Gatorade with his left arm or his right arm? Like they've turned everything into a bet, and it's just so acceptable now that it has to be addressed. And I think another big part of this too is gambling addiction is it's an addiction, but it's also different in the way where our trigger for a lot of us, especially I know mine is money, a payday or just seeing money. I remember when I'd have money in my account, it was in the casino in like 5 minutes, and it was just an automatic thing. Like I felt like that, you hear you're powerless over your addiction. I remember watching myself do it, but it just felt right. Like, so our trigger is money, and money is what we need to live in society. Like our trigger can't go away. So, you have to set up these safeguards um, to help protect yourself. And that's part of what I've built in Cope Compass is making treatment accessible. So when I started out on this journey, I was like, okay, let me just find all the people who offer gambling help specifically. How can I find these certified counselors? How do I find rehab centers that have, and there's public listings that are provided out there, but they're so sparse with information, and they're traditional, substance abuse and the more prominent addictions. I'd say substance use, like across the board, is widely accepted and well documented. But gambling, it's hard to infer if someone actually treats gambling. So with AI, I started reaching out. I would say, okay, this is the public listing who says they do gambling addiction treatment. And then I would go through every page on their website, qualify it with large language models and AI, and say, do they actually treat gambling? And that's how and even then, I still don't have it right. So I've been calling and working with providers and getting a lot of great insight and state partnerships of who actually treats gambling. And now people can go on copecompass.com and click find help, put in their insurance, put in their state, and it shows you all the qualified providers. Right now, it does mental health, substance use, and gambling addiction, but the default filter is on gambling addiction. And I haven't seen anything like it. I've seen a few sites, uh, but that's just the first part of the treatment. I'm trying to break this down into, okay, great, you found help. What's next? I can help you build a plan, but who's going to help you process your urge at 2 o'clock in the morning? Or there's 100 different breathing techniques, and there's EMDR, CBT, DBT, somatic, all these different types of therapy. How do I know what's the right type of therapy to use in the moment that I need it? And so with Cope Compass, that's what there's an orb that is built. And what I'm trying to build is the largest data set of known environment settings, the types of urges people are having based on the type of gambling that they do, whether it's sports betting, lottery, horse racing, crypto, forex, online slots, and then did these did these grounding techniques actually help you? So you tell it in the beginning, hey, I have an urge to gamble. I just got paid, for example. And it says, okay, let's walk through 4 grounding techniques. We'll do some breathing. We'll do some stuff to take your mind off of it with your hands, maybe some DBT.
And I've done some of them. Like I've done some of them in the app with the orb where you've done it with you trace things
Yeah,
with your hand. There was one that was a breathing one that I actually did this morning. It is a little, and one thing that stood out was it's a little bit more interactive. Not all of them have like some of the a breathing's a common one that a lot of apps will have, but for one of the things that stood out with yours was some of the moving your finger along certain things was actually pretty unique. I haven't seen that in a lot of apps before, but I've been doing a little bit of testing it out when we made our initial connection about it.
nice. Yeah, and that's the goal is I want it to be a fun and interactive experience where breathing is not for everybody. Holding ice in your hands is not for everybody. Going for a walk and moving your body for 5 to 10 minutes, not for everybody. And if you're laying in bed at night, uh, you're not going to get up and go out for a walk. Like you're probably just not going to do that. So I usually included some alternative to help you get through the urge in that moment. And then there's also a why section. It says like, why am I doing this? And it'll say, this is the therapy that it's backed by, clinically backed, and this helps free your mind from the thought loop that you're going through right now, or this will help reduce the urge that you're feeling in your chest. And so now when I get these urges, I'm able to just recognize, wow, this is a really strong pull I'm feeling. And that's one of the exercises on Cope Compass. It says just acknowledge the urge and watch it pass. And so you go through all these techniques and these grounding techniques, and what it's building, it's helping people, it's free. And my goal is build this data set. I did machine learning engineering for a long time, and I want to build enough data to where, and by the way, the data, if you decide to opt into it to contribute your urges being processed, it's all anonymized. It's really just, it's at a high level. All it is showing us is this person had an urge around this time in the morning. This was the type of techniques they used. It wasn't helpful or it was helpful. And did they feel better? Like, did they feel better after they processed their urge? And then it keeps you going through. If you didn't feel better, you'll go through and try more techniques. It learns you over time. That was the whole goal. So as you continue to use it, your techniques will get more tailored towards your recovery journey. And then I realized, like, okay, the orb's cool, but if nobody comes back and logs into the app, who cares? So I had a hard time finding a sponsor. I built a sponsor finder in the app. And as we onboard more users, we're about to have our official launch at NCPG. In 2 weeks. Yeah, we're coming up here.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll see you there too. I'm excited. Yeah, we're gonna have a booth. You definitely gotta stop by.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've been building this out. We built out a community. I realized, you know what? This would be amazing if we had not everybody on Facebook or these other larger social platforms, Instagram, they don't want to air their recovery journey fully on those social platforms. But what if a platform existed where they can come in and get those same dopamine feelings of likes and reward mechanics on a social platform like Cope Compass, and it's all recovery focused, and you can process your urges. We just added a site blocker. You can enforce blocks on, I think it's over 200,000 websites now and that really helped me a lot because not only that, it'll notify your sponsor when you're trying to go to a site. If you want it to, you can opt in to have it notify your sponsor, where it's all about transparency, like having another person to help hold you accountable or just connecting with others in the community. We have this really cool I don't know if you saw it, but it's a map of all the GA meetings, all the Dharma meetings, all the Smart Recovery meetings, and the Gamanon meetings that exist on the internet. I'm sure there's more, but people can go in there and add their own meeting.
Yeah,
And
GA, Smart, Gamanon, Dharma, online, in person, hybrid. Like you kind of got like a really big breakdown there of the options.
yeah, and if you click into it, it takes you right into the meeting. In fact, we just had a girl join Cope Compass. I love when people join because I get a text on my phone and like I welcome them in. And she joined at 2 or 3 in the morning. Usually they come in pretty broken, like I just lost everything. You know how that goes.
Yeah, crisis moment, like
Crisis moment.
desperation. Like,
Yep,
yeah, really. And usually not traditional office hours.
exactly.
So it's usually not like 10 in the morning when there's places open at like a 9 to 5. But I think that's been one of the challenges always is I think the treatment and helping profession in general, whether it was substance use, mental health, gambling, I think started to realize that you had to expand or think about what was going to be available to people outside of our office hours because those issues aren't going to wait until we open. They're not going to hold off until, you know, we have a next appointment available, that there is this need and a lot of innovation coming into this space of how do we provide people with that support and services when we're not there at a building or we're not there to answer a phone, and how to do that. So it is when you share that story, it's exactly one of the stories that share why is because what place is available at that time.
Yeah, exactly. And I keep coming back to recovery isn't won or lost in the 1 hour a week with a counselor. It's won or lost in 167 hours in between. And that's the moment I built Cope Compass for, to meet you in that moment. And when you have a community you can just join a meeting on with a click of a button, that's exactly what happened for someone who joined recently. They pulled over on the side of the road and said, I need help. Like, I can't stop gambling. It was super late. I think she joined at around 2 in the morning. Uh, she made a little post in the forum and then she clicked find meeting. And she said she went to one meeting. It was in the UK, but she kind of didn't really connect with the people in the meeting. And then she joined a New York meeting right after that, and she was like, "I found my people," and I was like, "That made it all worth it, man." Just she was like, "You saved my life." That's what she said.
I think
And
that's really important because I'm curious your thoughts on this, where we talk about people don't reach out for help or people don't go to treatment. And I think sometimes our idea of reaching out for help or treatment, like people, that doesn't mean they're not reaching out for support. And when you look at something you've developed, which is the app, you could look at all the people that have downloaded and linked with that. Why wouldn't we say those are all people who have reached out for help? But
right,
I don't think that's being like really talked about, or that is really being shared in that narrative of when this person, when she did that and she reached out, downloaded this, got connected, like why do we look at that differently compared to if she would have walked into treatment a different day or something? There, I think there would have been more of like an applause or a recognition for doing that. And it might not be seen by some people as, well, look, she did reach out for help. She went to this app and downloaded it and did this. I'm hoping that maybe changes. I'm curious your thoughts on that. It's just I don't see it as how we've looked at people seeking support, and why not?
yeah,
Like,
Andrew. There's two things I want to talk about there. One is, first of all, as a clinician, if you're if you your member or your client, they have Cope Compass and you're the therapist, they can let you see their urges over the week. I think that's a pretty cool feature where now on your next meeting, you're not asking like, how did your week go? You can just log into the app and you can see this. Okay, I see you had 10 urges this week, and you processed it, and these are the techniques you used. That's been pretty powerful, and I've had a lot of good feedback on that. And the second thing I wanted to talk about, which you just brought up, is reaching out for help. And I think a lot of us don't realize that we need help, or we're ashamed to ask for it, and we don't want to believe that we could be addicted to something, and as the gambling addiction progresses, it it tells you you're fine. You could quit whenever you want. But you don't want to quit because this is fun. And but once you break out of it and get a clear mind and you're not lying and you get your integrity back, I felt like my soul was dying inside. And I mean that I didn't recognize myself anymore. I hated looking in the mirror. Um, and so if that's you, come get help. It's You're going to feel better. It's like set yourself free. It's a journey, and I just think the more people can realize that they're not alone. And you know what this reminds me of? This whole pandemic. Do you remember like 15 years ago, it was sort of a taboo topic if you needed mental health treatment. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, mental health. Oh, okay. Well, this guy's crazy. Like, or this person just what happened. Now it's part of every day. Like it's a widely accepted thing where, oh yeah, go talk to a counselor. Oh, your mental health's important. And I think we're on the forefront of that now with gambling addiction, where it's building this silent swell of people who are getting addicted, not seeking help, uh, but the ramifications and all of the shame and the guilt that they're encountering, they're going to need help. So the people and the addiction is rapidly outpacing because of all the promotions that's happening through sports betting and on your phone. And um, I sent money to my mom the other day, and it was through a very popular app for transferring money. And at the end of it, it said, "Hey, we noticed you just sent some money. You can get $300 in free credits right now on this website for it was like bet something something something, and all you got to do is like click this button." And they had a partnership with Venmo. I was like, "What is going on? This can't be real." So
Yeah. That is, and I'm curious your thoughts about this. And I feel like we're going to talk about this for a while, and you and I are going to meet up in Nashville at the conference and talk more. I'm curious that one area we always talk about gambling being behind and substance use, mental health, and so many things. And I think one area that gambling is potentially outpacing or catching up pretty quickly is the use of like apps and digital therapeutics. Yeah, I'm seeing more of them for gambling than I'm seeing more of some with like substance use and mental health. And I'm curious from someone like yourself who has been developing this, is part of that because there's such a need for it because the casino is the phone now. Like that is the phone is now a significant way of how people are gambling. And it has been called the 24/7 casino in your pocket. I know other ways it's been called is like this isn't your grandmother's casino anymore. Like this is the digital version. But do you think that plays a role in why there needs to be things, even like digital apps and different therapeutics like that? Because this isn't about just trying to prevent someone from going down to the local casino, but this is also trying to help someone who is triggered or urges with something that is right in their hands in their pocket, that the idea of, well, just don't be on your phone or get rid of your phone is not realistic. So anything there that,
Yeah.
because I am seeing more of gambling get into like apps and digital tools more so. And I'm hearing people even who've from, clients and patients who are, you know, primarily working with gambling, that is something that is being talked about more than is necessarily being brought into a conversation with substance use and mental health. So I do see this being, I see some of this stuff. You're going to be at a conference, talking about, with it and having your exhibit table. Like we don't always see that at like substance use conferences or mental health conferences, but this is something that's becoming more common and available in gambling. And part of me is wondering, is that because it's the thing that we have to be concerned about or help people with is how they manage it with their phone, because that's a big place where people now gamble.
Absolutely. And the casinos are relentless. I know firsthand. I went through this phase where I thought, it was free money. They send you daily bonuses. They have you log in every 8 hours. You get weekly bonuses, monthly bonuses. You get your own VIP host. They treat you all of the stuff you used to do on or in person, and you could justify, well, at least I got a free hotel stay. Now it's all on your phone, and they treat you well. So part of that, I built in a bunch of counter triggers, so you can select your sports. Like if you're a sports bettor, you can say I subscribe to NHL, NFL, MLB, and I we have the whole schedule in Cope Compass. And then before the games come on, we'll send you a notification like, "Hey, it's a good time to check in." We know that. So using modern technology to combat the predatory techniques of casinos and online betting, I think that's what we have to do today to give people a fighting chance to live a normal and happy life, where it's so easy to fall into these traps now of, I'll just make a bet. Oh, they're giving me $300 in free credits. Okay, let me. You lose so much more than money. You lose your mind, your integrity. So much more comes with it. I just want I just want people to know that they're not alone, and they can um, get help. Like even if you think you might have a problem, don't. It's okay. You know, this is just part of life. Life throws punches at you, and you just got to get back up. And what type of resources are there to help you get back up? There's not a ton right now. And but with modern technology like I know AI is a very controversial topic right now in the recovery space. But it also could have a lot of great uses if it's applied well and there's safeguards in place. Um, yeah, that's all stuff I'm excited to talk to you about at NCPG too.
Yeah, and we will. Before we wrap up, what's the best way they can go to Cope Compass? They can learn all about it, they can download it, and is that the best way for them to, someone who's listening who wants to learn more about it, that's the best way to go?
Yeah, they just go to copecompass.com. There's links right there if you have iOS or Android for the app in the store. And if you don't have a phone or just on your desktop, just log in through the web browser. And I'd encourage just everybody to make a first post on the community page, introduce yourself, and hopefully I'll get to meet everybody too, because I love meeting fellow members in our community.
That's great. That's awesome. I can't wait to talk more about some of this with you and to do it in person too. As always, that doesn't always happen with podcast guests and the work that we do, connecting with people. So the chance that we get to do it in person is pretty unique and amazing. So, all right, final takeaway based on the conversation we've had and the work that you're doing. Any final takeaway you want to leave listeners with?
Yeah, I'd just say, for both counselors and for users, Cope Compass is free. Just come see it, and counselors can reach out about a founding provider spot. Um, and I am just super humbled and excited to be part of this process where I can help. I'm in a position now to where I can provide this platform to provide the free help. And I'm really thankful for you having me on your podcast, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for talking about it. Thanks for sharing all about not just Cope Compass, but your story and some of the things that we talked about with your journey. I also think it's going to be very beneficial for people to hear. So I appreciate you being willing to share that with us and how that led to your work with Cope Compass. So, Austin, I can't wait to talk with you and meet you and learn more and keep this conversation going. But thank you so much for joining on today's show.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
One last thing before you go. If today's conversation gave you something useful, something you'll carry into your work or your own recovery journey, I'd ask you to do one thing. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It takes about 30 seconds, and it's genuinely the most powerful way to help this show reach more people who need it. Whether that's clinicians, counselors, people in recovery, family members, or just the community, they're searching for exactly this kind of conversation, and your review is what helps put us in front of them. Scroll down the Apple Podcasts app, tap the stars, write a line or two. That's it. I read all of them. Thank you for being here.
You've been listening to Talking Addiction and Recovery with Andrew J. Schreier. We're so glad you've joined us and invite you to connect further with the show and these topics at www.andrewjschreier.com. That's Andrew J. SCHREIER.com. You can also email us directly at talkingaddictionandrecovery@gmail.com and connect on social media, Instagram at Talking Addiction and Recovery, Facebook Talking Addiction and Recovery Podcast, and Twitter at TalkAR_podcast. To stay connected and never miss an episode, be sure to like, rate, and subscribe. Until next time, friends, let's keep talking addiction and recovery.